Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today on our second El Paso Giving Day workshop now on a communications guideline and timeline presented by Mr. Martin Bartlett from Barracuda PR. We do all know that communications guidelines and timelines are great to provide you all with a sense of structure and order for your organization, especially when it comes to certain campaigns, considering El Paso Giving Day is a huge one, especially on social media. So Martin here has this graciously wanted to share his expertise with us. So just a quick background on Bartlett.
People do that all the time.
Martin Bartlett draws upon a lifetime of loving maps, roads, and bridges to oversee Barracuda's growing portfolio of transportation infrastructure projects. He has built and helped execute meaningful, bilingual, cross-platform public involvement plans for projects including I-10 Connect, the El Paso Streetcar Project, the Horizon Boulevard Corridor Study, and the Reeves County Truck Reliever Routes. His work extends beyond Barracuda's transportation clients to nonprofits such as El Paso Giving Day and businesses as well. Upon graduating from the University of Mississippi, Martin enjoyed a successful career in broadcast journalism, covering state and local governments for television stations across Texas, including here in El Paso. In 2012, he earned accredited membership in the Congress for the New Urbanism. He is currently pursuing a certificate in transportation operations and planning from the University of Florida's Department of Civil and Coastal Engineering. Martin, thank you so much for being here today. I'll let you take it away.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And it's also a pleasure to be with all of you on a Friday morning. So we're going to try to have a little bit of fun here in addition to kind of getting down to some serious nitty-gritty stuff about communication. Excuse me, I am getting over a cold today, so I apologize if I have to take a second to clear my throat or kind of collect myself, have a glass of water here. So please bear with me. But again, welcome to everybody. And what we're going to do kind of in the next, in these coming slides is talk a little bit about, or give you all some tools to kind of help build a communications plan between now and El Paso Giving Day. I will say one of the really remarkable things about El Paso Giving Day that always gets Barracuda excited is we know this is about so much more than just one day. This is about building the capacity of our community's nonprofit infrastructure. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really very specifically geared towards El Paso Giving Day, but I'm really hopeful that you'll be able to take some of this and apply it more generally, because at the end of the day, as a nonprofit organization, your communication shouldn't begin and end with El Paso Giving Day. So there are a lot of folks on the call. What I'm going to ask you to do, just to kind of help me know who we're talking to, if you could just drop your organization in the chat, that'll just help me make sure that if there's anything or any specific information that I think may be valuable. So just go ahead, drop it in the chat, what organization you're representing. You see DMRS, Centro San Vicente, NAMI El Paso. Oh my gosh, now it's just, this is really exciting. We have the EPCC Foundation, Franklin Mountain Wilderness Coalition. Yeah. Good morning again, Judy Ackerman, who I was on a call with earlier today. La Posada, El Pasoans Fighting Hunger. I mean, I think one thing that's really valuable as we continue to see this kind of list of nonprofits scroll through is really to recognize the height and the breadth of the organizations that participate in El Paso Giving Day. And at the end of the day, we can all rely upon, I think, some of one another's expertise and battle stories, so to speak. So there, I see Books Are Gems, El Paso Leadership Foundation, Lee Moore Children's Home. Really exciting to see all of these different organizations which do such valuable work across our community. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of the agenda for today. It's obviously, we can be as informal as you like. So don't feel too bound by this. We're going to do some interactive polling to start out with. It's going to be a little bit fun because, hey, it is Friday after all. So we'll talk about some just kind of overall communications best practices that can serve you, whether you're talking about El Paso Giving Day or your organization in general, or maybe there's just some other topic that you have to communicate about. There are 5 fast facts that we recommend really kind of committing deeply to memory about El Paso Giving Day. We'll also delve deeply, or delve not so deeply, but kind of a surface journey into some social media tips and some tips. I know that's something that a lot of folks really loathe, is having to get in front of a camera and talk about their organization. I will tell you, even as somebody who spent years making a living doing that, being on camera, it is still daunting. So do not feel bad or have any sort of concern about the fact that it is a daunting experience, because frankly, it just is. All right, so we're going to switch over to the interactive polling here for a second. So give me a second to change screen share. Bear with me on this. Okie dokie. All right, so you all should see right now on your screen, and in case you know, if you don't, you should see the opportunity to talk about what's your favorite color. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is open a separate browser window and go to the website pollev.com/usefulflood090. They created the URL, I did not. So pollev.com/usefulflood090. If you'd like to use your mobile phone, you can certainly do that. You'll text the word usefulflood090 to the number 22333. I'm going to give everybody a moment to kind of get their technology in line, and let me know once you've done so, and we will proceed. All right, somebody's already in the room. So I went ahead and chose chartreuse as my favorite color, because hey, when that's an option, how do you not go with chartreuse? So this is just kind of a calibration question. We're just going to kind of make sure everybody's technology is working and everybody's comfortable with the platform. I am hurt. Okay, no, I think the cheese still stands alone on chartreuse being my favorite color. Is anybody having great difficulty getting into the room or using the text message function? Oh man, magenta's pulling out to a lead. Okay, all right, so I see that magenta is a clear favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. Thank you very much for participating. Good to know that magenta reigns supreme. So what we're going to do is move on to the question that's going to be, I think, a little more substantive related to what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this poll. For your organization specifically, thinking strictly about what you do, which of those tools that you see is the most important tool you use to promote El Paso Giving Day? There are absolutely no right or wrong answers on this one. So just tell me, according to your organization, what's the single most tool? I doubt it's the only tool, but just the most important tool you use to promote El Paso Giving Day. Candidly, I am surprised to see social media that far out there. That's exciting to see. Word of mouth, it's tried and true, kind of making a little bit of a showing. Love to see that. Written correspondence as well. Those e-newsletters. All right, so a reminder, if some folks are having trouble with the texting function, I would remind you that website, pollev.com/usefulflood090 is a little less finicky than the text message function. I will tell you that the texting is a little bit, always a little bit buggy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. I think we have some consensus here that social media is really central to how organizations talk about El Paso Giving Day. But what I also want to do is take a look. So the poll is now full. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. What's really exciting to see, I think, is that though social media is clearly a tool that everyone recognizes as very important, those first three, those tried and true mechanisms that have probably been around for a while, especially the first two, remain a part of the conversation. Social media, though important, is not the be all end all. So that's very exciting. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. And this one is open to you. What words come to your mind when you think about El Paso Giving Day? It can be anything. Please remember, this is a morning crowd. Please keep it ready for prime time. And the bigger the word, the bigger the display of the word, the more people have entered it. All right, so our poll is now full. So really exciting to see, but take a look at what came up twice, by the way, and both times pretty big: community. So that's a very clear, I think, indicator of the fact that this is driven by community. I did see, and this was very interesting as well, I think I saw new donors coming up early. We all know that that's one of the things that El Paso Giving Day was designed to do, was create a tool to engage with new donors. Let's be very candid, in some ways to kind of bend the curve, the age curve down a little bit. So not that we see a lot of social media, social media as a very important tool. But again, I think we all see and are not surprised to see community coming up as the word that we at least think of the most often. All right. So now we're going to have a little bit of trivia fun. All right, so on those other ones, I said there was no right or wrong answer. On these, there is a right or wrong answer. So there are no prizes, though. I'm sorry. The prize is only knowing that you got it right. So when was first El Paso Giving Day? Go ahead, use that same link.
I think it's not loading on my end. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue.
Oh, because I have not activated it. I have not pressed a button. That was a user error. User error.
Thank you.
Isidro was ready to win and it did not load. So Isidro, I apologize. I'm sorry. I've stolen that moment. All right, keep those responses coming. This is for all the marbles, by which I mean none of the marbles, because there are no prizes. All righty, we're done. I'm going to go ahead and show the correct answer was 2016. 2016. Of course, that is not something that necessarily is going to be key to your donor communications or key to your timeline, but it is good to recognize that El Paso Giving Day is not a particularly old institution, but it has become really important for a lot of nonprofits and has become a tool that we know drives engagement. All right, next one. This is important. I'm going to say you got to get this one right. When is this year's El Paso Giving Day? And somebody put it in September 22nd, and they dialed that thing back really fast.
That was me, honestly. That was me. I pressed, I was like, no.
All right, since we have a lot of consensus, I'll go ahead and show the correct answer is October 21st. So good to know we're all on the same page. One of the things that's been incredibly important and incredibly valuable as El Paso Giving Day has grown over the years is early giving. So when does early giving begin this year? How early is early giving? All right. Again, a little bit of dissension, but overall, I think we have some consensus. 14th is the beginning of early giving. I think it's actually always been 1 week prior to El Paso Giving Day, even though the date may have shifted over time. So I hope you all found some value in just kind of going through a little bit of fun exercise there before we dig into kind of the nuts and bolts. But I do think as well, there you in figuring out what we have heard, what we know, what we believe kind of resonates most of all in terms of what are the things that come to our mind most of all about El Paso Giving Day. All right. So now we're going to just kind of dive into the general tenets of good communication. And these are tools that I'm going to say, whether you're talking about El Paso Giving Day, just your organization, or any other number of topics, these are true and accurate. Increasingly, personal stories are what drive engagement on social media. They are what drive the way television and print and digital journalists tell stories. So given that, now more than ever, you are El Paso Giving Day's best ambassador. It has kind of always been held as a truism, but again, now more than ever, people connect to people. So don't be afraid to be that role, to inhabit that role of being El Paso Giving Day or your organization's best ambassador. So we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit and really recommend that when you have the opportunity to have a discussion about your organization or your involvement with your organization, do not, under any set of circumstances, be afraid to lean into your personal story. Again, personal stories are what drive engagement. Now more than ever, they are what drive people to action. Seeing someone who has taken an action, we now know more than ever will inspire others to action. I will tell you, as people, we are, I think, all taught to be very humble and assume that someone else has done something greater than us, that our contribution is meager. But at the end of the day, talking about your story, talking about your involvement, whatever it is, whether you gave $1 million or you gave $10 million, whether you volunteered once or you volunteered 100 times, you're at that organization every single Saturday, whatever your personal story is, it absolutely can resonate with someone. Furthermore, organizationally, the little incremental things that your organization has done may not seem impactful to you because you're engaged in it every day. You're in the trenches. But sometimes, frankly, more often than not, what we find working with clients across the spectrum, and this goes for big government clients, goes for nonprofit clients, so often the things that we on the inside see as commonplace, people out there in the world, civilians, so to speak, find to be incredibly interesting. So don't be afraid to lean into your personal stories and your organization story, because your stories, that's all you need to be seen and heard. So that's kind of the good news. That's the fun part of the story. The next couple of bullet points are a little bit less maybe candy canes and jelly beans. Consumers do have limited mind space for our message. So it's really important to curate those personal stories and curate those organizational stories. It would be a mistake to, on August 6th, 2021, begin a long-standing barrage of personal stories, one story a day, every single day between now and El Paso Giving Day, and expect them to have the impact that we want them to have. Recognize that people who are out there in the world, though them may be novel to them, we can't undercut our own novelness by barraging them with information. So curation is very important. The final bullet point kind of relates to just, again, that discomfort we all have sometimes in speaking, that discomfort we have maybe with an unfamiliar message. There are some things you can just always pivot back to. Make sure you have those in your hip pocket. When you're talking about El Paso Giving Day, there is a beautiful slate of tools available on the website you can just always use to pivot back to the El Paso Giving Day brand. And even when you're just having one-on-one conversations, maybe with donors, maybe with folks, with your colleagues, always kind of know what is that guiding star of your brand. And El Paso Giving Day, I think we saw pretty clearly, is about community. We know that it is our community's only region-wide charitable day of giving. So don't be afraid to just pivot back to that. That's why El Paso Giving Day matters. And you no doubt have similar ideas about why your organization matters. Kind of to that end, we recommend having just some, again, things you know are always safe that you can always go back to. And these are the items related to El Paso Giving Day that we would recommend, no matter who you're talking to, no matter how thorny they might be. These are things that you can just always save kind of in your back pocket, put it in the back of your brain. You can always pivot back to these. That again, El Paso Giving Day is our community's only charitable, region-wide charitable day of giving. That, I mean, it has had an impact in its 6 years, more than $5.5 million. 5.5 is a big number, but the minimum donation's $10. So it's small. Small things can make a big difference. Another really important point that we recommend, the Paso County Community Foundation has gone out and leveraged partnerships with national and local corporations to amplify the impact of El Paso Giving Day. So this is not just your $10, it's your $10, my $10, corporate money. All together, this is an opportunity to really get literally the biggest bang for our community's buck by participating in El Paso Giving Day. And another item that we think is important is to really lean into that new tagline, that act, give, change tagline. Really that we think kind of sums up the beauty of El Paso Giving Day. You can act, you can give, you can make change in our community. So again, we were really pleased to have a kind of clear vision about the value of social media as it relates to communicating with donors. I am not here to tell you, and I think you all told me, social media, though important, is not the be all end all. Social media on its own is not going to raise you sufficient sums of money. It is about increasing brand awareness, because increasingly your nonprofit organizations are competing in a atmosphere, a very brand driven atmosphere. And when we talk about that, what we mean is people have affinity for certain brands, and more that is playing out across social media platforms. So as you're building your social media presence, think about the brand, think about how people, your would-be donors, again, we kind of want to be where people who may not be donating are. What will resonate with them? What will bring them into your brand and give them a reason to be loyal to your brand? Again, recognizing that a hard sell may not be the way to do that on social media. Continuing to say, donate, 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 donate may not be the way to do it. There's certainly a point where that donation message, that call to action is important, but it's also very important just to build some affinity over time. And again, that second point, it is not a substitute for those real life relationships or sending somebody a thank you note when they give a big donation. Keeping those lines of communication open with the folks who are going to be donors. Again, social media is really the place where you can expand your brand awareness and get maybe new disciples, so to speak, into the fold. So that's kind of some overarching ideas about what makes social media work and why it's valuable, and frankly, what its legitimate shortcomings are. One of the things that is incredibly important is all social media posts are not created equally. So again, we've talked a little bit about kind of making sure that the content you are creating gives people something to kind of stick their affinity to. Frankly, we know that people, we know that stories, we know that brand does that. But again, the method you use to do that is very important. And what I have here is kind of a hierarchy of performers. Now more than ever, really short videos, stories, reels, those things you see at the top of the feed going across horizontally, that's where the action is now more than ever. They're fleeting, they're fast, but they are really important. I oftentimes tell the anecdote. A couple of years ago, I think it may have been 3 years ago now, the shortest commercial in the Super Bowl was 8 seconds. I mean, this is, we are living in a world where people's small attention span has gone to infinitesimally small. And I think that really proves it up, that it's happening across the spectrum. It's not just happening in the social media sphere. Across the board, attention spans are shrinking. Our ability, that mind real estate we can get into is less than it ever has been. So frankly, for better or worse, whether it should be or it shouldn't be, those really short, super digestible nuggets of video are the best performers across social media. Beyond that, live videos are very, very good performers, and long form videos follow that. Now, this is not just about, let's be very clear, this is not just about consumer preference in social media. The algorithms that undergird Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, frankly, give preference to these video formats. So it is likely that things will be served into your feed more likely, or the feed of people who follow you more likely, if it is a short video, a live video, or a long form video. Once upon a time, when Facebook started 180 years ago, when I signed up with my college.edu address, if you followed somebody, you got everything they said. Increasingly, you don't. It's curated, and the algorithm kind of drives what you will see in your feed if you follow somebody. And frankly, they give preference to those video elements. Images get a little bit preference, graphics a little less. The thing that does not get preference, that is really just background noise, is just a post that has text only. That's the chances of somebody seeing that are very, very slim, to say nothing of will it actually move them to action, or will it give them something to kind of feel affinity for your brand about. Of course, hashtags are incredibly important across all platforms. El Paso Giving Day is the one that we think is the hashtag that has the most excitement around it. And frankly, as we get towards El Paso Giving Day, you will start to see excitement build around that hashtag. And that's another kind of algorithmic trick in the background, is as hashtags perform better, things that carry those hashtags tend to perform better. So frankly, a rising tide will float all ships if all of us are using that hashtag El Paso Giving Day hashtag. And we'll go into greater depth on some of this here in a little bit, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But I want to move to another slide where we're talking about tips for interviews. Now, this is called tips for interviews, but let's be clear, it also frankly will work at a cocktail party. It will also work when you're having coffee with somebody and you start to talk about El Paso Giving Day or your organization. These things are just good tenets of how to communicate generally. Again, we are going to recommend, if you're going into an interview setting with a member of the media, no more than 3 messages. We absolutely recommend just jot down 3 bullet points, spend a little bit of time, maybe when you're waiting in the car or waiting in the Zoom waiting room, to just kind of go over those 3 messages. Because at the end of the day, as much as the end consumer's real estate is small, so is the reporter, videographer going to have a very small bit of real estate. So just over and over again, those 3 things that you know are what you want to get across. And that can be very uncomfortable, because we have all been taught to be good conversationalists. If somebody asks you how your day is going, say, it's going well. At the end of the day, you're probably not going to, change the narrative and say, well, I'm not having a great day, or provide more information than you think they need. But at the end of the day, frankly, this is not a social conversation. This is about getting your message across. So answer the question you wish they had asked. We have found that to be incredibly important across all platforms. Don't be afraid to repeat yourself. That's something as well that we as humans are not taught to do. You say it once, you move on, you assume they heard you, but don't forget, in these situations, in television interviews, in newspaper interviews, in web interviews, in Facebook Lives even, people may only be tuning in for a small snippet. So you want to increase the chances that that small snippet happens to overlap when you're saying what the key message is. So just say saying those key messages over and over again increases the likelihood of it landing, and pivot back to your messages often. So again, you can answer, we always talk about answer the question you wish they had asked. You don't want to be evasive. So maybe you answer the question that they clearly asked, but then quickly get back to your key messages. Another thing that we have found that is incredibly important as the media landscape changes. I am a former reporter. I am speaking from a place of great sadness. Newsrooms have increasingly less time, fewer and fewer resources. So if you provide them with good, frankly, serviceable quality video, photos from your iPhone, increasingly they will use it. That has not always been the case, but we believe that rather than mourn the fact that those newsrooms have fewer resources, we believe it's important to take advantage of that and provide as much as you can. Again, thinking about the fact that visuals are what's driving so much of the conversation now in newsrooms, and also in terms of what performs best online. So with that, what I'd really like to do is kind of just move into kind of an open question and answer section. I am happy to answer whatever questions you all have to kind of help you begin the process of building out a kind of a workable communications timeline between now and El Paso Giving Day, which is coming up in October. So I don't know, Casey, how you want to handle it. If you want folks to raise their hand, drop it in the chat, however you want to handle it, I'm amenable to it.
Yeah, if you guys want to raise your hand through the Zoom, does everybody know how to do that? If you would like to go ahead and speak, then go ahead and raise your hand. Judy's up. She was on it.
Yeah, just checking these videos and photos. They go on my organization's social media as opposed to somewhere in the El Paso Giving Day.
Yes, I mean, frankly, what I would recommend is, yes, being there, being present, really using your social media platform, because the people that are following you or your organization rather, the likelihood of them already having that affinity. So you're really leveraging their affinity rather than necessarily trying to build affinity. You will get some of that, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. Now, specifically, as we were talking about kind of providing some of those visuals to members of the media, I see Sandra Ramirez, who I know also knows about this, and we can say this because we are former reporters. Frankly, sometimes reporters are a little bit lazy. So don't rely on them to go out and find anything. Send them whatever you want them to use. And increasingly, they will use it. So. And I did see a question in the chat about bilingual campaign. Absolutely. I mean, you know, it would be, I think, communications malpractice to not assume that you need to be in a bilingual space in our community. So, and it's frankly, as much as anything, it speaks to just the nature of our community. Our community is a bilingual community. So absolutely, absolutely. All right, I think Samantha just raised her hand. There she is. Hello.
Hey. Yes, so this year I'm with TSU and will be a sponsor for a power hour. So I was just wondering if you had any tips coming from the sponsors and sharing the El Paso Giving Day message with everyone. I'm used to El Paso Giving Day on the nonprofit end. I used to be with the Humane Society of El Paso. So it's a totally different perspective for me this year. And I'm really looking forward to, you know, broadcasting the message of El Paso Giving Day. It's one of my favorites of the year.
Well, I think, frankly, your organization is uniquely positioned to kind of tap into two audiences. And so turn me into your HR department if I'm running afoul. But I mean, I would absolutely, we've heard from other corporate sponsors that they are totally all in on making sure that their employees know about El Paso Giving Day. So that's a great way to kind of broaden the net, so to speak. But so you have a huge opportunity there to begin a conversation kind of through whatever internal communications channels you have with your employees. Of course, I'm certain you can't make it obligatory, but you know, you can strongly suggest. External, I think you also have the opportunity, let's be very clear, of frankly leveraging the goodwill that comes along with being an El Paso Giving Day sponsor to external audiences. So really, I would say don't be afraid to really kind of put the heft of your organization internally and externally behind the movement, because frankly, I mean, that's how you extract the value, I would say, out of your sponsorship.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Too much quiet here. When do we start this? So when do I start putting videos on my Facebook, for instance?
So I'm going to recommend a kind of gradual ramping up. I mean, I do think we're getting close to that time. But I would say you're also going to have to just kind of feel out what other content do you have out there. One thing I would not recommend is you don't want your feed, your organization's feed, to become nothing but El Paso Giving Day between now and El Paso Giving Day. There are other things that people come to you for, that the content you provided to them. But of course, as you get closer to El Paso Giving Day, I think that balance can kind of shift a little bit, and you can have a much more El Paso Giving Day centric feed. So I mean, let's see, and there's not a one size fits all answer, and I hate to be the guy that says that, but I would definitely say as we get towards the end of August, it's time to start kind of maybe on like a red. By the time we get to September, yellow, and by the time we get to October, it's green, and you can just go, you know, I think almost all El Paso Giving Day all the time. It'd be just kind of general outline.
Yes, and I think a rule of thumb that I believe we talked about in the last campaign, it was a huge topic of conversation, was that lucky number 7. You know, a person needs to see something 7 different times in order for them to actually like engrave in their brain and take action. So that is definitely something with El Paso Giving Day, whether you're doing that through social media or just a newsletter. So you could just do something sweeter, you know, if you want to start doing those calls with your major donors, or, you know, your newer donors that are a little bit more active. Just telling them now, just for that, so that they're aware that, you know, hey, El Paso Giving Day is October 21st, and the League of Women Voters will be, or I'm so sorry, Judy, I'm not too sure. I know you're part of 2 different organizations. I don't know if that was the correct one this year, but 3. So, you know, our organization is participating this year, and we would love to have your support. Just having that first conversation, and then whether that's newsletter later, putting that on social media. But, you know, you always just want to make sure you have those 7 different modes of communication with your donors, so that they are just aware of El Paso Giving Day and that you are participating.
And if I can amplify that, we talked about earlier kind of people have limited real estate in their mind for these things. For us, it is top of mind because we all have that date circled on our calendar because we know the value of it. If somebody doesn't know the value of it, to Casey's point, there's going to have to be some repetition of messaging before it kind of locks in their brain with it. We're probably never gonna get into the level of where, you know, where we are recognizing it is circled in, you know, in red and green and blue and chartreuse on the calendar, because we know how important. We're probably never gonna get them there, but we are gonna have to communicate with them, to Casey's point, multiple times to get them to recognize or to kind of fix that date in their brain, which again is a challenge. If you do that all now, or you over communicate now, by the time you get to October, they're going to tune you out. And so it really is this delicate dance of drips and drips at the appropriate moment before you kind of open the floodgates.
Yeah, and also I think, and I had spoke to someone about this, and it's just maybe even just on all of your, just for social media, for your posts, if as long as you're just putting the hashtag El Paso Giving Day, maybe someday someone will click on the hashtag and like, oh wow, look at all of these in many organizations, kind of really amplifies like, whoa, this is what El Paso Giving Day is about. This is why I need to support this organization on this day. So that's also just an option, you know, like Martin had mentioned, you know, continuing posting on social media regularly. Don't just throw out a bunch of El Paso Giving Day posts. So whether that's your major programming, you know, photos, you know, people like to see people, as Kelly from our PDNCF team always mentions, people like to see organic photos on social media. That's what drives likes, drives engagement. So just continue, but on the caption, putting their hashtag El Paso Giving Day also just brings a little bit more awareness. Well, this year we would like to promote, and moving forward, hashtag El Paso Giving Day. Yes, but hashtag EPGD gets you there too. It does, but the one most popular is hashtag El Paso Giving Day.
If I can ask a question of the group, you know, I was a little bit surprised to see the extreme consensus around social media as being the most important tool, either in the chat or raise your hand. What's kind of the second tier most important tool after that you all find? Judy says email, so like direct email to like a donor list. I see a lot of heads nodding there. And frankly, I mean, that absolutely jives with what we have found in our experience for a variety of clients. Is direct email is really critically important. There you see it from Samantha. So text messaging, that is one that I will say is very powerful, and that requires a lot of care, because at the end of the day, I can choose to be on social media. Excuse me, I can choose to click on that email you send me, but when you're blasting things directly to my phone, that starts to feel, you know, that is a very inescapable thing. So I would say text messaging, incredibly powerful, but of course with great power comes great responsibility. So, you know, we would definitely recommend using that tool as appropriate, but really, really judiciously, because again, I mean, you are going directly to nightstands directly to their kitchen counter. And Sylvia's talking about kind of those one-to-one asks. I mean, I agree. I mean, that is, I would be shocked if anybody told me that they got a truly large donation as the result of what they were posting on social media. I do think, again, it's kind of that ambient brand awareness that's incredibly important about social. But again, those big donors probably aren't going to be moved by an Instagram post. So they have a text message campaign. Marty asks, I mean, we have found text messaging again to be incredibly powerful. I absolutely think it is valuable. I am hesitant about maybe a text messaging campaign, because it does kind of invoke in me this idea of maybe a little too much. I mean, I say at the end, as long as that campaign is kind of built with this idea of less is more on that, and again, recognizing that you are going directly, like that's like pulling out the big guns. So use it sparingly, but it can be powerful. So maybe like on El Paso Giving Day, a reminder, hey, today's El Paso Giving Day, don't forget to give by 11:59 tonight. Or if you have a power hour, hey, our power hour starts in 15 minutes, get on it. Those I think would be great uses of text message. I would very much recommend against El Paso Giving Day is a month from now. Have you made your plan? So I think that's probably better for social, better for email, better for those other platforms. But text message is powerful for right now.
Yes, definitely. I just want to, Martin, 100% on a power hour. That's where I would recommend it. I know a couple organizations do that for, especially when you're strategizing your campaign to really go for the prizes. So if some new people on the call here, El Paso Giving Day does provide prizes each year. This year we will be giving out over $30,000 worth in monetary prizes. And your power hours are a huge one. So like Samantha had mentioned earlier, TFCU is sponsoring I believe is the Brownback Power Hour from 12 to 1, our most popular power hour prize. And the organization in each category, small, medium, or large, who receives the most donations within that hour span will receive an additional $1,000. So that could be $110 gifts rather than, so it's at this point, it's kind of quality over quantity. It's more donations rather than just one huge donation within that hour. So you can receive an additional prize. So a text messaging campaign for an hour, just pick 1 hour, have that conversation with your team. Which power hour can we all really dive in, contact our donors, just really, either whether that's texting or calling, just being readily available to answer questions within this hour. Because, TFCU has always been a gracious sponsor of ours, gracious supporter. So we want to, really use that, that hour that they are sponsoring. So that's, 12 to 1, we have the 4 to 5 p.m. We have the milk and cookies at 9 to 10 p.m. We have the early one, which is now midnight to 1 a.m. And then as well, I believe 7 to 8 is the other one. But for more information on prizes, it is at elpasogivingday.org/prizes for more information on those rules. But of course, you can always contact me with questions. But yeah, you always want to strategize differently for these different prizes. I think it's the El Paso Children's Hospital Foundation, which does a really good job at using a text messaging campaign for their hour. And so if you all would need assistance with strategizing for a prize, that's what I'm here to assist you with. So please feel free to reach out to me. I love helping people with their campaign, making it grow. I think my favorite part of the job is seeing your all's excitement and then, seeing it all in fruition. It's exciting. So I said exciting like 6 different times. That's how excited I am about El Paso Giving Day.
If I can, I owe Marty an apology because I misread his question. So that was not me answering the question I wish you had asked. That was me legitimately not reading your question correctly. I think it's more of a logistical question about how. And that is a great question. And the unfortunate answer is it's going to be very case specific. So if you, there you go. So what we have found is if you have an incredibly large text message list, you will probably need to look for like a software solution. Sometimes it can be set up through believe it or not, there's a WordPress tool. There are off-the-shelf applications that can assist if you're talking about hundreds or thousands of cell phone numbers, because what is frankly the pipeline that you are sending those text messages through is only so big. And so what will happen is it will essentially back up those text messages and send them through one at a time if it's too many. And that will mean that it will take a long time. Perhaps your power hour will have expired if you try to do it manually, if you have a very large group of numbers. Now, if you have the human power within your organization to maybe break those lists up and really do one-on-one sit down text from to folks that you know whose numbers you have, that would be another way to do it. But again, if you're looking at a really big list, you're probably going to have some sort of technological assist, just because just the sheer volume of numbers. I don't know if this is going to be the case for anybody on this call, but we have one client who we do a text messaging campaign for, and it's like 2,000 to 3,000 numbers. And so, I mean, we have to have a kind of big, expensive pipeline to send that many text messages through. And even then, sometimes it still takes them a while. So just beware of that. I can totally see somebody sitting at a desk using a Google Voice interface, putting in all of these text or phone numbers, pressing enter to send the text message, and it takes forever for it to get out. So that, I will say, is if you have a large group, that is logistically not the solution. If you have a small group, maybe. Marty, did I get closer to your answer? Perfect.
Well, did anybody have any questions for Martin before? I did it again. I said Martlett. I am so sorry, Martin. Martin, for any questions for Martin? Martin, I owe you.
I have been called so much worse.
So social media, the best one, Instagram, Facebook, what?
So that's a great question. And some of it will be about, I'll answer the question as directly as possible. Instagram is where the action is right now. Facebook is essentially like the Ford Motor Company. So I mean, it's always going to be, it always needs to be a part of your strategy. I mean, it just is not going anywhere. Twitter less so, unless maybe you are a, I could see it having value if you are like a politically adjacent or kind of current event adjacent organization. You could find value there. Beyond those three, I mean, if you want to get into the game of TikTok, that's a whole lot of content creation. And frankly, I'm not certain that it'll really move people to give. But my recommendation, you got to be on Facebook. You ought to be on Instagram, and Twitter is pretty optional. So someone's asking me if text message can, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, those text messaging is very powerful. And you are, I mean, again, an unknown number going directly to somebody's phone does not always have the intended effect. But again, back to the social question, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you're unless you just know that you have another platform that is just performing gangbusters for you.
Great. Well, I want to just thank you, Martin, so much for your help. And again, if you all have any questions, please feel free to reach out. This session was recorded, so it will be up for to review, as well as the presentation slides will be available to you all. Martin, thank you. Cannot thank you enough for guiding us on communications guideline and timeline. You were tremendous in answering all of our questions, and I look forward to working with you all this Giving Day season. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.